Principle 3, training, the non-monetary compensation. So it's been 6 months, it's been a year, and you have grown, maybe 15%. It hasn't been a great year, but you've grown, or you're still having an identity crisis of working out, is this a lifestyle business I'm going to build to exit? I don't know. I can't make a decision. That's okay. You'll figure it out. You'll get there. Something will happen and it'll guide your, decision from that point of view. But until you get to that stage, how do you compensate your staff? How do you say to your team, I see you, I value you, I'm so grateful that you're here. I really want to pay you more money, but besides taking out, from my own salary and not paying myself what I'm worth for the time I'm putting in, I just can't justify giving you, a market raise. Or there is situations, you lose some clients, you have a tough year. How do you tackle that? How do you move around that? Do you offer them more perks? Do you reduce a day? There is something that works really well, and I want to say it's training. If you can train people and you can make them feel like they can take on the world, if you inspire them and give them so much hope that they can see for themselves from where they started to where they are now, and you can constantly remind them, when you joined, you were here, and this is where you are. I am so, proud of you. I am so convinced that in a year's time, you're going to be slaying dragons. In a year's time, you're going to be doing things you never thought you could do. If you were, struggling to talk to clients, you felt insecure around clients, you're going to be confident in that. If you never knew how to do, a deep, search term analysis using an Ngram, if you never ran a script before, we're going to get you there. We're going to get you past that point. If you can create hope and belief, people will say, hey, if I stay in this, maybe it's not helping my bank balance as much as moving for a, 5 to 10% increase to another company. However, if I stay and the founder's actually putting time into me, they're actually adjusting things in my ways of working to ensure that they're addressing the weaknesses and leveraging the strengths that I have, I'm going to stay in this job. Why would I leave if I'm being trained? Why would I leave if they're actually helping me move to the next level? I'm only going to leave if, there's no training and I'm unhappy with what I'm being paid for. So putting in training is basically a way of reinvesting into your team. It's saying to them, we value you. If you think of it from an apprenticeship or an internship, you're getting paid literally next to nothing. That was me joining an agency, taking a salary knock, even though I was working for a massive global company that was making huge money and their profits were just eye-watering. I was getting paid next to nothing, but I joined so that I could learn. Now that lesson and that foundation is true forever. You'll find it even at a senior level. Sometimes people will take a salary knock to go back and work at a startup because there's lessons they feel they want to learn and move forward. So the value of job satisfaction and trying to find this thing called happiness in your position is not just linked to what you get paid. People will take a lower salary if the overall package is better off for them. If they as a person are being trained to understand personality types, to regulate their own mental health, to prioritize their own mental health, to learn to do the technical aspects of their job so that they can actually, improve their IQ and be challenged and be stretched. And if there's time made in the calendar, so in the week, it's laid out, this is your training time, this is your learning time. And there is an allocation of that, and there is a prioritization and a defensiveness to say, we're not going to say, hey, do the training, and then we're going to cancel the training because everyone's stressed. We're going to prioritize it. When people say, hey, we're so stressed and things are so busy, let's cancel the training, it's actually a test. They're saying, is this rare? Can you prioritize us? Can you prioritize me in this time? I know you're really busy. I don't want to bug you, but I really need help with this. And you're in client calls. If you make the time for them, you're saying you're more valuable than this client. You're more valuable. Your career progression is more important to me than the company's progression at this moment in time. It's saying I'm going to invest in the people around me, and I'm going to trust that the people around me are going to invest in the company and ensure that we grow as a unit and as an organization. But if you prioritize the company in every single moment and you prioritize the financial bottom line in an afternoon call, in a rush decision, and you keep delaying on a performance appraisal, you keep delaying on a training session with an individual or a one-on-one catch-up, what happens over a long period of time is people start to realize that they are not the priority. And they will stop testing you. They will stop asking to say, hey, are we doing the training this week? And the calendar invite will just get deleted. And people will just skip it. And the downtime, the time to recharge and refuel and re-energize and improve is going to be put to the end of the queue. And it's going to start disappearing from the calendar. And over a long period of time, they're going to say, you promised all this training, you promised, to grow me, and I feel stuck. I feel stagnant. I feel like nothing's happening. And then as a leader, we can often take that personally and say, well, I can't be responsible for your career progression, and I can only take the horse to water, but I can't make it drink. Sure, great. So, how do you work with that? What you do is you can say, well, I can't force the horse to drink, but I can sure take it to the lake for 2 hours and say, this is your training time. You are being paid to do some training in this period of time. If you do not do that, there is a level of that's up to you, but there is also a governance from a leadership point of view of saying, was that clearly defined? Was there time set out and actually time defended and prioritized? And was the workload given to each individual regulated to a point where, everyone can afford that? I'm not going to go through it in this training course because this is really around building a team and, the principles within that team culture, but often increasing pricing is saying to your clients, hey, I value my team more than your business, and I'm going to increase my prices by 20% so that I can lose 10% of my clients who don't want to go for the increase, but ensure that I can actually pay my staff more, and I can, dedicate more time to training because I'm going to reduce the billable hours and the utilization on everyone. By increasing pricing, you re-regulate the system and say, hey, we're actually good at what we do, and we're going to take a moment to relax and to de-stress and unwind. Whereas if you don't do a price increase, your utilization is going to increase and people are going to work harder. However, there's less time for training, less time for fun, and that sense of community just gets lost, and everyone feels like they're working at a factory at some point. So it's around finding a balance between the two and ensuring that your value proposition is aligned with the quality of the team that you want to offer. If you're charging too low, you're not going to have time for training, sure. But if you are in a situation where you're on an up and you're growing, and at that moment in time, you can see a point where you can pay someone more when you get to a little bit further down the line, but you're not there right now, invest in training, invest in your people. They will fight for you. They will ensure that the goals of the organization become a priority because you are prioritizing your people. And as you prioritize your people, they start to shift and to actually care about the organization. But when you don't care about them, when you're a leader who eats first, when you're a leader who always has to get paid first, when you're a leader who always has to make a certain margin and you're not actually prioritizing your people, they feel that. They feel like they're at the end and they're on the way out, and they will leave you. But if they are the first people to benefit, the number one, investment in the team, you will find, for majority of people, not everyone, some will take advantage, majority of the people who sincerely feel like that, they will start contributing to the agency in a new way, and your level of training will really help. So let's talk around some details and practical steps in training programs. Now, the best way that I saw training happen was to do practical exercises. Putting someone on a course and saying, here's Udemy, here's a Udemy license, go train, do whatever you want. I find leaders say that because they're actually not invested in your training. They say that because they just want to palm off and have the right thing. It's a stroke of ego to say, hey, we give all our staff access to unlimited learning. They can do it whenever they want. You're basically paying money to make the problem go away. Maybe it works. Maybe some people use it. Overall, it's questionable. My opinion on this is the best thing you can do to build a robust training is to have the training, followed by an exercise, followed by a train the trainer program. So what that looks like is you're going to be trained on budget pacing, then you're going to do some budget pacing, and then you're going to train someone else. So train the trainer. It's hopefully you have a big enough team to do this, and if you don't, let them do it with the clients. Watch them scream with fear. Say, I'm going to train you on this. You're going to do a practical exercise next week. And then the following week, we're going to schedule a call. And the title of the call is going to be insert your name, training with client on budget pacing. I'm going to show you how I budget pace. They will learn very quickly. It is their ego at stake. It is their opportunity to grow. And you are putting them on the spotlight. If they crumble and fall back, you can rebuild them and say, hey, I wouldn't give you that opportunity if I didn't believe you could do it. I believe in you, and that's why we're doing this. Let's go. Pushing them to have that full cycle of training, not just, head knowledge, but actually working through it, allowing them to have an emotional moment of delivering the actual training and connecting that to, a practical scenario with some work done, and then training other people leaves them with a memorable moment to actually link all the neural pathways in their brain. We're not going to go into the whole science behind that, but the train the trainer method, from what I've seen, is the best way possible. It really helps when you're having cohorts of constantly hiring new people. You're essentially creating a training path that we're going to train you on these things, then you're going to train the next group, and they're going to train the next group, and it just starts growing from that point of view. Hugely effective if you're trying to scale up quickly. But even in a small team, getting people on a short space and getting them to train. I remember we hired someone and they needed to do an aspect of SEO alongside the PPC side. And actually, no, correction, it was just PPC. We hired them, and within 2 weeks, they were doing a PPC training course. And we're like, look, we would rather you do a training that doesn't go well versus mess up on client work. We can measure your understanding from a training, which is a relatively closed environment, and even if 10% more than those clients on the training course, maybe they're not actually retained clients, it's future clients, they are still possibly going to learn something from that training. It might not be advanced or next level, but just by the process that's going in place and ensuring that you're having to actually think through the things that you learn and know and then communicate them, you're going to notice, a drastic improvement in that individual's understanding on the topic and their desire to actually improve their own knowledge versus trying to, have to constantly correct people because you never give them an opportunity to train. So my suggestion is build a train the trainer program. That means one junior training another junior who started later, or one senior inducting another senior from an onboarding point of view, or juniors. And if your team's really small, train your clients. If you can train your clients, you will never regret that. They can't argue and say, you don't know what you're doing. If you train them and they leave the training feeling like, wow, you actually do a lot of work. Training your clients is a phenomenal way to stamp your authority and to communicate to your clients that you know more around a certain topic than they might from there. Great. I think we touched on recognition. I would just like to maybe re-touch on that before we close, but just to say, giving feedback to your staff and saying well done, great job, is crucial. If you are a leader who cannot give affirmation and cannot make others feel good, I would argue that you need to fake it until you actually feel that way. If you have nothing good to say, rather keep quiet. If you have critical feedback, make sure that it is not just sandwiched, because that's not the goal, but it is the full volume of your feelings. If you're you did really well at this, I was really impressed with this thing, however, this could improve by this. And if you had these two things working together, this would be the outcome. Better than saying, hey, this is really crap and I need this to change in 2 weeks, or that's the end of the end of things from there. You have to have some form of inspiring, picture that they can actually move towards and feel like there's hope at the end of the road. And you're not just there to try and, cut them down from that point of view. If you do those things well, you'll find that it creates an interesting opportunity And this for me is the mark of success on, training, is getting that feedback from the customer, from the trainee, of them saying, hey, this was great, but I didn't understand these things. This was great, but this was quite unclear. I didn't really understand this at all. Like this whole section in the training, it was really blurry to me, and I'm going to have to be revisited. If they can say that versus just nodding and saying, oh, that was great, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, sure, I'll implement it, don't worry. If it's just all good feedback, you have a problem. If there's only good feedback, you have a big problem from a training point of view. If you send out training scorecards afterwards and everyone says 5-star training, you have a problem. It's not that you've optimized it. It's not that it's perfect. It's that you haven't involved anyone in the training. It's been a one-way conversation, and I am case in point, suspect of doing this. You need to do things that actually involve people in the process, and it's ensuring that they themselves can get to the stage where they can train someone else. And if they can't train someone else on what you've trained them, then you've failed them. And if you take that responsibility and you own that as a leader and say, hey, I am going to take the responsibility of training you and getting that going, you'll find they will start to take responsibility for the things that are part of their world. Yeah, obviously there's boundaries in that, and it's about ensuring they know their responsibility and you know that yours. But overall, in closing, having a phenomenal training program ensures that you can pay people, what you can afford, but actually give them a phenomenal remuneration package as a whole. You can give them a career opportunity that they wouldn't have elsewhere.